There are three major things that can sum up what people think about America from the outside. We are loud and outspoken, obnoxious even. We like to eat big unhealthy food, and we love our guns. While all three are certainly true, the gun culture in America is what catches the most flack from people, obesity crisis aside. Most countries don't have a Second Amendment equivalent, and the countries whose citizens can own guns are limited far more than us Americans are. Some would argue that we need to be more limited here in America, but I don't think that should be the case. The gun laws in America shouldn't be increased at all, as the laws being pushed wouldn't have any substantial effect on curbing gun violence, and only endanger ordinary citizens by not allowing them to protect themselves. Many of these newly pushed gun laws have nothing to do with the crimes committed. The laws that exist only affect law-abiding citizens, and the people pushing for more gun laws tend to have faulty data or misinformation to back them up. Many of the laws that are pushed by the government tend to happen in response to a shooting. For example, after the Las Vegas shooting, Fox News reported on a tweet by Hillary Clinton which said, "The crowd fled at the sound of gunshots. Imagine the deaths if the shooter had a silencer," which the NRA wants to make easier to get. Not only did the Las Vegas shooting have nothing to do with silencers, as he didn't use one, but she is blatantly fear-mongering to push her agenda, using this tragedy to try and push some legislation. If there were more laws against the purchasing of silencers, as she puts it, in place before the tragedy, it wouldn't have changed anything at all, making the law pointless and solving the issue at hand. Another example would be that of ghost guns. Ghost guns are a made-up term by anti-gun proponents that describe gun parts sold in kits that don't have to be serialized. So basically, a separate upper and lower receiver, maybe a barrel, a stock, different things like that. You could put it all together, boom, gun, and then you still have to get it registered after, but the purchasing of them isn't serialized. According to Tom Knighton of Based Politics in his article titled "The Big Problem with Biden's New Gun Control Regulations," ghost guns have only been used in 325 homicides since 2016. That's just 0.36% of all homicides in that time. That's fewer than the average number of people who are accidentally killed with a firearm annually. Yet, in response to the New York subway shooting, the Biden admin said they wanted to crack down on the purchase of ghost guns. However, the shooter had legally obtained his firearms, even though he used to be on an FBI watch list as well as having a combined 12 prior criminal charges, none of them felonies according to Alyssa Guzman and Gina Martinez of the Daily Mail. This shows that if New York and New Jersey were tougher on crime and didn't reduce the sentences of career criminals, he wouldn't have been able to legally purchase a gun. Also, the FBI shouldn't have taken him off the watch list when his entire online presence, up to the date of the shooting, revolved around the desire to kill white people. You probably shouldn't blame guns when local authorities and federal authorities weren't doing their job as they probably should have. Now that we've covered why these laws wouldn't have a substantial effect on gun violence, let's go over who they would affect. Law-abiding citizens. It should be fairly obvious to point out that criminals don't follow laws, as they're criminals. So why would a new law stop them? It wouldn't. This can be shown by the fact that states with the most gun laws have the largest amounts of gun crime. In the ABC News article titled "2021 Ends as Chicago's Deadliest Year in a Quarter Century," the Associated Press writes, according to the department, 2021 ended with 797 homicides. That is 25 more than were recorded in 2020, 299 more than in 2019, and the most since 1996. And there were 3,561 shooting incidents in 2021, which is just over 300 more than were recorded in 2020, and a staggering 1,415 more shooting incidents than were recorded in the city in 2019. If Chicago's gun laws had any effect on crime, they wouldn't have had their deadliest year since 1996 last year, after even more gun laws have been introduced since that time. Criminals are simply illegally purchasing their weapons on the black market to circumvent implemented laws, meaning the only people these laws are affecting are the people legally buying them. Frankly, people who would brazenly rob and attack somebody in broad daylight at 4 p.m. on a Friday aren't very likely to let a silly little law stop them. One major effect of these laws that have on effective lawful gun owner is how long it takes to be able to get a concealed carry license. An article in USA Carry titled, "What's an Average Wait Time on a Concealed Permit?" writes, "In general, wait times are usually ranged between 7 to 10 business days to 3 to 4 months depending on where you live, the temperament of your local issuing authority, and the number of hoops you need to jump through to get your paperwork through the door. As criminals will just ignore this and carry their guns without a permit, this is only going to affect the average citizen who wishes to defend themselves on the go and others from people who might prey on them. Guns and ammo aren't cheap either. The tax rates that states with many gun laws put on the purchasing of firearms disproportionately affect poor citizens who live in areas plagued with rampant crime. And the police aren't going to be able to go there very much because they don't exactly have the best reputation there, so they need to be able to protect themselves. Regardless of all that information, gun control advocates would argue that it doesn't matter that the infringement of these Second Amendment rights happen. They can't come at the cost of human life. Lori Budger of Reader's Digest, in her article, "Gun Violence Statistics in the United States, 12 Charts You Need to See," uses a graph that shows the amount of gun deaths being around 43,551 in 2020. The majority of these deaths, however, are suicides. Over half, around 24,000 something, are suicides. Incorporating suicides in a chart for gun violence is disingenuous because these deaths are not crimes committed by one person onto another and therefore shouldn't be considered violence. We wouldn't call a person taking a toaster bath a violent person, so the same shouldn't be applied to a suicide by gun. Now, to bring it all the way back to Hillary's quote about silencers, this is misinformation as there is no way to actually silence a gun. It's a term that is come into common parlance because of movies and games and people who just don't know any better, thinking that these silencers actually reduce the sound that it makes to basically nothing. It only actually reduces the sound about 14.3 to 43 decibels depending on different factors such as the reuse of subsonic rounds according to centerfire shooting sports. This is the amount of a jackhammer might be making. So when someone like Hillary uses this false info to push new laws, it's using misinformation to do so. As you can see, not only are these laws being pushed not going to solve any of the problems that they are being brought about for, such as with silencers or suppressors, more accurately, or ghost guns, but they are only going to be affecting law-abiding citizens, and they tend to be brought about with faulty information. It is every person's right to be able to defend themselves, their family, and their property. These infringements on the Second Amendment only serve to get in the way of our God-given rights and enable criminals and tyrants to prey on our inability to efficiently fight back. Ultimately, the point is to have the gun as a deterrent rather than to ever have to actually use it, and that works the majority of the time. Police can't always be there to protect you, so it's only right that people be able to legally protect themselves. As the saying goes, when seconds count, help is only minutes away.